The ship was dying. Admiral Syra Valketh knew this the way a mother knows her child is sick. She could feel it in the trembling of the deck plates beneath her feet. She could hear it in the groaning of metal that had taken too many hits. The celestial harmony had been the pride of the Velen Confederacy. Now it was a floating coffin limping through the darkness between stars. Behind her, 16 other ships followed. Some were worse than hers. Some were barely holding together with emergency patches and desperate prayers. This was all that remained of the greatest fleet in the galaxy. 17 broken ships, 4,000 survivors, and behind them, always behind them, came the Kreth. Valketh stood at the viewing window and watched the stars slide past. Her pale blue skin had grown gray with exhaustion. Her silver eyes, once bright with confidence, now held only the dull weight of defeat. She had fought the Kreth for 30 years. She had won battles, lost battles, watched friends die in the cold vacuum of space. But she had never imagined this. Total defeat, complete destruction, the end of everything her people had built over 10,000 years. "Admiral," her navigation officer called out. His voice was tired. Everyone's voice was tired now. "I have found a system. Yellow star, 8 planets. One of them shows signs of life." Valketh turned slowly. "What kind of life?" "Primitive. Pre-spacefaring. They have basic electromagnetic signals, radio waves, simple broadcasts. Our database classifies them as a Class 4 civilization. They call their planet Earth." Earth had never heard of it. Neither had anyone else in the galaxy apparently. It was an unremarkable world orbiting an unremarkable star in an unremarkable corner of the spiral arm. But it had raw materials. It had atmosphere. It had time. "How long until the Kreth find us?" she asked. "Maybe 7, if their scouts are slow." 6 cycles. It was not enough time to truly repair the fleet. But it might be enough time to patch the worst damage. It might be enough time to make their ships capable of reaching the galactic rim, where they could hide and wait to die in exile. "Set course for Earth," Valketh ordered. "Begin landing preparations." The fleet limped toward the small blue world. First contact happened over a city the humans called Geneva. Valketh had expected many things. She had expected fear. She had expected worship. She had read the reports on how primitive species usually reacted to their first meeting with beings from the stars. They either ran in terror or fell to their knees in awe. The humans did neither. Instead, they asked questions. Thousands of questions. Questions about the ships, questions about the engines, questions about the weapons and shields and navigation systems. They asked about metallurgy and physics and mathematics. They asked about things Valketh did not even know the names for in their language. Within 6 hours, human scientists had taken apart the Velen translation devices, figured out how they worked, and started speaking directly to Velen engineers. They learned a new language in 6 hours. Valketh had never seen anything like it. A human named Director Chen came aboard the Celestial Harmony the next morning. He was a small man with gray hair and kind eyes that missed nothing. Valketh had prepared a formal greeting, the kind the Velen used when meeting leaders of primitive worlds. She never got to use it. Chen walked past her with a polite nod and went straight to the engineering section. He spent 4 hours examining the damaged reactor core. He asked the Velen engineers questions they could not answer. He made notes on a small device. He hummed quietly to himself. When he finally returned to Valketh, his eyes were shining with something she did not recognize at first. It took her a moment to understand. It was excitement. Pure, childlike excitement. "We can do better than this," Chen said. Valketh blinked. "I do not understand. Your reactor design, your shield harmonics, your weapon systems." Chen smiled. It was a strange smile. It made Valketh feel like prey. "They are good, very good, but we can do better." "Director Chen," Valketh said carefully, My people have been building starships for 10,000 years. Your people have not yet left your own planet. True, Chen agreed, but we have been fighting wars for just as long, and we have learned that there is always a better way to do things, especially when survival is at stake. He turned and looked out at the damaged fleet, visible through the viewing window. The ships hung in orbit, like wounded animals, their hulls scarred and burned. How long until your enemies arrive? He asked. 6 cycles, perhaps less. Chen nodded slowly. Then we have work to do. What do you mean? Admiral Valketh, you came to Earth looking for repairs. You hope to patch your ships and run away to die slowly in some forgotten corner of the galaxy. Chen turned back to face her. His kind eyes had grown hard. But that is not what is going to happen. Valketh felt something stir in her chest, something she had not felt in a very long time. She was afraid to name it. Then what is going to happen? We are going to rebuild your fleet, not repair it. Rebuild it. We are going to make your ships faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything the Kreth have ever seen. And then, Chen paused. The smile returned, but it was different now. It was the smile of something dangerous. Then we are going to help you win your war. Valketh stared at him. You do not understand. The Kreth have conquered 1,000 species. They have ruled the galaxy for 8,000 years. They cannot be defeated. Admiral, Chen said softly, I have read your history files. I know what the Kreth have done. I know how powerful they are. He stepped closer. But you do not know us. You do not know what humanity is capable of when we have something to fight for. He gestured out the window, where thousands of lights were rising from the planet below. Ships, aircraft, transports, an entire world was mobilizing. You came to us broken and dying, Chen continued. You asked for help, and we are going to help you. Not because we are kind, not because we are generous. We are going to help you because out there among the stars, there are wonders we have dreamed of for our entire existence. And we are not going to let some empire of bullies keep us from reaching them. Valketh watched the lights rising from Earth. Thousands of them now, tens of thousands, an entire species waking up and reaching for the sky. You are either very brave or very foolish, she said quietly. Chen laughed. It was a warm sound, full of genuine amusement. Admiral, we are human. We have always been both. Below them, Earth began to transform into a shipyard. And somewhere in Valketh's chest, something that had been dead for a very long time began to stir. 6 months passed, and Earth became something the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral Valketh stood on the observation deck of the Celestial Harmony and watched the madness below. Every continent had become a factory. Every ocean held floating shipyards. Every hour, transports rose from the surface carrying materials, equipment, and people. So many people. Humans swarmed over every ship in the fleet like insects, but insects with tools and ideas and an endless hunger to learn. They had taken her fleet apart. Piece by piece, system by system, they had dismantled 10,000 years of Velen engineering. Valketh had expected them to be confused. She had expected them to struggle with technology far beyond their understanding. Instead, they had improved it. This makes no sense, Chief Engineer Voss said, for perhaps the 100th time. He was standing beside Valketh, watching a team of humans rewire the shield generators. They are using mathematical models based on music. Music, Admiral. They call it jazz. And somehow it works better than equations we spent centuries developing. Valketh did not respond. She had stopped being surprised weeks ago. On the deck below, a human physicist named Dr. Sarah Okafor was arguing with 3 Velen engineers. She was explaining something about wave harmonics and resonance patterns. She was using hand gestures and crude drawings and occasional bursts of humming to make her points. The Valen engineers looked confused and frustrated, and amazed all at once. An hour later, the shield generators were producing 3 times their original output. This was how it had been since the beginning. The humans did not just learn Valen technology, they questioned it, they challenged it, they asked why and what if, and have you tried, until the Valen engineers wanted to scream. And then, they made everything better. The weapons were the hardest part for Valketh to accept. Valen plasma lances were elegant weapons. They were precise. They were clean. They disabled enemy ships without unnecessary destruction. This was the civilized way of warfare. This was how advanced species fought. The humans removed every plasma lance from every ship. In their place, they installed things they called railguns, massive electromagnetic launchers that fired chunks of metal at 3% of the speed of light. When Valketh saw the first test firing, she felt sick. The target asteroid did not just break apart. It vaporized. It ceased to exist. "This is barbaric," she told Commander Webb, the human tactical advisor assigned to her ship. "These weapons are not meant to disable. They are meant to destroy." Webb was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. She looked at Valketh without emotion. "Admiral, the Kreth destroyed your homeworld. They killed billions of your people. They have done the same to 100 other species." She paused. "Do you want to disable them, or do you want to stop them?" Valketh had no answer. The humans also installed something called nuclear-pumped X-ray lasers. They installed missile systems with warheads that could crack planets. They installed point defense networks so dense that nothing could pass through them. Every weapon was brutal. Every weapon was overkill. Every weapon was designed for one purpose: total victory. A human general named Okonkwo visited the fleet one day. He was an old man with white hair and a calm voice that commanded instant respect. Valketh asked him why human weapons were so destructive. "War is not a game," Okonkwo said simply. "The enemy wants to kill you. You want to stop them. Everything else is just talk." "But civilized species have rules," Valketh protested. "There are traditions." Okonkwo smiled sadly. "We had rules too, Admiral. We had limits. And then we kept losing wars because we followed them, while our enemies did not." He shook his head. "We learned. We stopped losing. And now your fleet is going to learn the same lesson." Not everything the humans did was about weapons. Junior Engineer Teth had been assigned to work with a human technician named Maria. They were the same age, more or less, though Maria was small and soft, where Teth was tall and angular. They worked together every day, rewiring systems and installing new equipment, and slowly they became friends. Maria taught Teth about human history. She told him about wars fought with sticks and stones, wars fought with swords and spears, wars fought with guns and bombs and terrible weapons that could burn entire cities. Humans had been fighting each other since the beginning of their existence. "We never stopped," Maria explained one night, while they sat together in the cargo bay eating strange human food. Every generation thought they would be the last. Every generation thought they had learned. But we kept fighting. We kept getting better at it. Better at killing, better at surviving. "That sounds horrible," Teth said. It was. Maria's eyes were distant. "But it also made us what we are. We adapt, Teth. No matter what happens, no matter how bad things get, we find a way. It is the only thing we have ever been good at." Teth thought about this for a long time. He thought about his people, who had known peace for thousands of years before the Kreth came. He thought about how quickly they had fallen, how completely they had been defeated. Maybe peace had made them weak. Maybe they had forgotten how to fight. Maybe they needed humans to remind them. On the last day of the 6th month, the Kreth scout drone arrived. It appeared at the edge of the solar system, a tiny automated vessel set to find the missing Velen fleet. Valketh's sensors detected it immediately. She prepared to order evasive action, to hide, to run. The humans had a different idea. 9 minutes after detection, the drone was destroyed. Human defense platforms, hidden throughout the outer system, had tracked it, targeted it, and vaporized it with contemptuous ease. Then human recovery ships collected the wreckage and brought it to Earth for study. Valketh watched the scientists tear the drone apart with the same enthusiasm they showed for everything else. They learned its communication frequencies. They learned its sensor capabilities. They learned everything about it in less than a day. "We should send a message," Webb suggested. "What kind of message?" Valketh asked. Webb smiled. It was not a friendly smile. The kind the Kreth will understand. The next day, the entire fleet was repainted. Bold colors and strange symbols covered every hull. Human letters were stenciled on every ship, along with translations in Kreth script. And on the Celestial Harmony, the flagship of the fleet, someone had painted 5 words in letters 10 meters tall. Valketh did not know what they meant. She asked Maria. "It says, 'We are coming,'" Maria translated. Then she smiled. "It is a warning." "Do you think they will listen?" Maria laughed. "Admiral, they will have no choice." The fleet was ready. The humans had done the impossible. They had taken 17 broken ships and transformed them into weapons of terror. And now, somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Kreth were about to learn a very important lesson. The prey had found new friends, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. The Karath Nebula was a beautiful place to die. Clouds of glowing gas stretched across the darkness, painted in shades of purple and gold and deep crimson. Stars burned through the haze like distant candles. It was the kind of place poets wrote about and lovers dreamed of visiting. Commander Vorath of the Kreth Dominion did not care about beauty. He cared about numbers, and the numbers were very good. 72 warships under his command, the finest vessels in the Dominion fleet, each one crewed by warriors who had never known defeat. Against them, 17 battered ships crewed by the pathetic survivors of a conquered species. This would not be a battle. It would be an execution. Vorath stood on the command platform of his flagship and watched the Velen fleet approach. They were moving fast. Too fast, actually. His sensors were having trouble tracking them. That was strange. Velen ships were not supposed to be that fast. "Commander," his tactical officer said, "the enemy vessels are emitting unusual energy signatures. Our targeting systems are having difficulty locking on." "Compensate," Vorath ordered. He was not concerned. The Velen were prey. Prey always ran, always hid, always died. It was the natural order of things. The fleets closed to weapons range. Vorath gave the order to fire. 72 ships unleashed their weapons simultaneously. Plasma beams and missile volleys streaked across the void, enough firepower to crack a small moon. It was a textbook opening strike. It should have crippled the Velen fleet in the first seconds. It did not. The Velen ships moved. They moved in ways that should have been impossible. They twisted and rolled and accelerated at angles that would have killed any normal crew. Vorath watched in disbelief as his beautiful opening volley hit nothing but empty space. Then the Velen fired back. Vorath had never seen weapons like these. His flagship's shields, designed to withstand anything, flickered and died under the first impact. Holes appeared in ships around him as metal projectiles, traveling at impossible speeds, punched through armor like paper. One of his cruisers simply exploded, there one moment and gone the next, reduced to expanding clouds of gas and debris. "What is happening?" Vorath demanded. "What are they firing?" Nobody answered. Nobody knew. On the bridge of the Celestial Harmony, Admiral Valketh watched her displays and felt nothing. The humans had prepared her for this. They had shown her simulations. They had explained exactly what would happen when Velen technology met human innovation. She had not believed them. She believed them now. "Target their command ships first," Commander Webb said calmly. She stood beside Valketh, watching the battle unfold with cold, professional interest. "Cut off the head, and the body will panic." Valketh nodded and gave the orders. 4 Kreth command ships died in the next 30 seconds. The battle became a slaughter. Human weapons did not disable, they destroyed. Every hit was catastrophic, every strike was lethal. The Kreth shields, which had turned aside Velen plasma for 8,000 years, meant nothing against railgun slugs and nuclear-pumped lasers. Ships that had conquered worlds died screaming as their crews were exposed to vacuum. Valketh watched it all. She saw the destruction, she saw the death, and she felt something cold settling in her stomach. "This is not warfare," she said quietly. "This is butchery." "Yes. Does that not bother you? Admiral, the Kreth burned your homeworld. They killed 12 billion of your people. They have done the same thing to 100 other species." Webb's voice did not change. Her expression did not change. Every Kreth soldier out there chose to serve the Dominion. They chose to be conquerors. They chose to be killers. She paused. Now they are learning what it feels like to be prey. Valketh had no response. The battle lasted 47 minutes. When it ended, 41 Kreth ships were destroyed. Not disabled, not captured, destroyed, vaporized, erased from existence. Vorath's flagship was one of the survivors. It hung dead in space, its engines gone, its weapons silent. Vorath himself was still alive, sitting on his command platform, surrounded by the bodies of his crew. Valketh opened a communication channel. Vorath's face appeared on her screen. He looked old. He looked broken. He looked like she had felt 6 months ago. "I surrender," Vorath said. His voice was empty. "I yield my fleet to your command. Please, no more." Valketh looked at Webb. The human's face was unreadable. "They did not accept surrender at Velen Prime," Webb said softly. "They did not accept surrender at any of the other worlds they burned. Why should you accept theirs?" It was a fair question. Valketh thought about it carefully. She thought about her dead world. She thought about her dead people. She thought about 8,000 years of Kreth cruelty. Then she thought about who she wanted to be. "Because we are not them," she said finally. "Because if we become like them, we have already lost." She accepted the surrender. 31 Kreth ships were captured that day. Their crews were taken prisoner. Their weapons were removed. They were treated with dignity and respect, because that was the Velen way. Her expression softened, just a little. "That is why you are the Admiral, ma'am. And that is why we are going to win." "I do not understand." "The Kreth rule through fear. They always have. But you just showed them something they have never seen before." Webb gestured at the captured ships. "Mercy. You showed them that there is another way. Some of them will remember that. Some of them will choose differently when the time comes." Valketh considered this. "You think we can win hearts as well as battles?" "I think the Kreth have made enemies of every species in the galaxy. I think those species are watching what happens here. And I think showing them that we are better than the Dominion is worth more than 1,000 destroyed ships." That night, Valketh found Webb alone in the observation deck. This human was staring out at the stars, her face thoughtful. "Can I ask you something?" Valketh said. "Of course." "How did humans learn to fight like this? Your species has never left your planet. You have never faced enemies like the Kreth. How do you know so much about war?" Webb was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was heavy with something Valketh could not name. "We fought ourselves, Admiral. For 10,000 years we fought ourselves. Every weapon, every tactic, every cruelty you saw today, we invented it first. We used it on each other. We survived it." She turned to face Valketh. Her eyes were old, so old. The Kreth think they are predators. They think they are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They have no idea. Webb smiled sadly. Humanity is the species that hunted itself to the edge of extinction, and then pulled back just in time. We are the survivors of a war that never ended. And now, for the first time, we have something to fight that is not ourselves. She looked back at the stars. The Kreth should be afraid, she whispered. They should be very, very afraid. Valketh stood beside her in silence. Outside, the captured Kreth ships drifted slowly, their crews wondering what would happen next. They would learn soon enough. Everyone would. Word spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The Valan had won. The prey had defeated the hunters. 17 broken ships had destroyed 72 of the Dominion's finest. It was impossible. It was unbelievable. It was true. And everyone wanted to know how. The first visitors came within weeks. A delegation from the Threll, an aquatic species that had surrendered to the Kreth 2 centuries ago. They had heard rumors of new weapons, new tactics, new allies. They wanted to see for themselves. Valketh welcomed them aboard the Celestial Harmony. She introduced them to Commander Webb and Director Chen and the dozens of human advisors who now served throughout the fleet. She showed them the ships, the weapons, the technology that had changed everything. Then she made them an offer. "Join us," she said. "Fight with us. And we will share everything." The Threll ambassador was a large creature, her blue-green scales shimmering in the ship's lights. She studied Valketh with ancient eyes that had seen too much suffering. "Why would you share your secrets?" she asked. "Species guard their advantages. They do not give them away." "Because we are not trying to build an empire," Valketh replied. "We are trying to end one." She turned to Chen, who had been waiting quietly nearby. "The humans have a different philosophy," Valketh continued. "They believe that strength comes from cooperation, from diversity, from bringing together different minds with different ideas." Chen nodded. "Every species has unique strengths, unique perspectives. We want to learn from you as much as we want to teach you." He smiled his kind smile. "The Threll have lived in water for millions of years. You understand fluid dynamics and pressure systems better than anyone. How do you think we could use that knowledge?" The Threll ambassador blinked. No one had ever asked her species for help before. No one had ever valued what they knew. The Kreth had only wanted obedience. Within a month, the Threll had joined the coalition. Human engineers worked with Threll scientists to design new ships, vessels with fluid-filled command centers that let Threll crews operate at peak efficiency. Weapon systems were redesigned to use Threll sonar technology, creating targeting arrays that could track enemies through nebulae and asteroid fields where normal sensors failed. The Threll ships were different from Velan ships, different from human designs. They were something new, something better, and they were just the beginning. The Vorn came next. They were insectoid beings with hive minds, millions of individuals thinking as one. The Kreth had feared them more than most and had crushed them completely, destroying their queen worlds and scattering the survivors. The humans saw opportunity. Human computer scientists spent weeks studying how the Vorn shared thoughts. Then they built distributed processing networks that turned Vorn crews into tactical supercomputers. A single Vorn ship could coordinate 100 different attacks simultaneously, adjusting strategies in real time as battle conditions changed. The first time a Vorn fleet engaged the Kreth, they won in 11 minutes. The Kreth commander surrendered in confusion, unable to understand how the enemy had predicted his every move before he made it. More species came. The Kalesh, who could see electromagnetic radiation invisible to other eyes. The Droth, whose silicon-based biology let them survive in environments that would kill anyone else. The Menarai, ancient beings who had preserved technological knowledge from before the Kreth conquest. Every species brought something unique, and the humans found a way to use all of it. "You ask strange questions," the Menari representative said one day while touring a human research facility. "Other species ask what we can do for them. You ask what we enjoy, what we dream about. Why?" Dr. Okafor, who had been assigned to work with the Menari, looked up from her equations. "Because people work best when they are doing what they love," she said simply. "We want to build systems that fit you, not force you to fit our systems." The Menari had no words for this concept. They had never encountered it before. 6 months after the first battle, the coalition numbered 300 ships. A year later, it was over 1,000. Species that had surrendered to the Kreth generations ago were rising up. Worlds that had been silent for centuries were sending messages. The galaxy was waking up. The Kreth responded the only way they knew how. A stealth armada was assembled in secret, 100 of the Dominion's deadliest ships. Their mission was simple: find Earth and destroy it. Kill the humans before they could spread their dangerous ideas any further. Cut off the head of the snake. They were detected 3 star systems away. Human sensor networks had been spreading since the first day of the Alliance. Thousands of tiny satellites, hidden in asteroid fields and gas clouds, watching everything. The stealth armada might as well have been carrying torches and singing songs. By the time they reached Earth's solar system, every possible approach was covered. Defense platforms orbited every planet. Automated weapons sat in every shadow. And the coalition fleet, now numbering 400 ships, waited at the edge of the system like a patient predator. The battle lasted 2 hours. Not one Kreth ship escaped. The Kreth admiral was captured alive. He was a young commander, arrogant and proud, certain until the final moment that the Dominion would triumph. He was brought before Volketh in chains, his uniform torn and his face bloody. "You have a choice," Volketh told him. "You can join us. You can help us end this war peacefully, or you can return to your masters with a message." The admiral spat at her feet. "The Dominion will never surrender. We have ruled for 8,000 years. You are insects. You are nothing." Volketh nodded slowly. "Then you will deliver our message." She had him taken to a small ship, equipped with just enough fuel to reach Kreth space. Before he left, she handed him a data crystal. "Give this to your Supreme Dominarch. Tell him what you saw. Tell him what is coming." The admiral took the crystal with shaking hands. "What does it say?" "One word." Volketh turned away. Behind her, Commander Webb smiled her cold smile. The admiral was released. His ship jumped to faster-than-light travel and disappeared. The message he carried was simple, recorded in every language the Kreth understood. One word: run. On Krethax Prime, the heart of the Dominion, the Supreme Dominarch received the message. He was ancient, the oldest Kreth alive, ruler of 1,000 conquered worlds. He had never known fear. He had never needed to. He watched the recording. Images of the stealth armada dying, of Kreth ships exploding like toys, of weapons that could not be stopped by any defense the Dominion possessed. He saw the fleet that waited beyond the destruction, ships from 100 different species, united against him. And at the end, one word: run. The Supreme Dominarch sat alone in his throne room for a long time after the recording ended. His advisors waited outside, afraid to enter. They had never seen their master like this. He was old. He had ruled for centuries. He had crushed every threat the galaxy had ever produced. But as he sat in the darkness, watching the recording play again and again, the Supreme Dominarch felt something new stirring in his chest. He did not recognize it at first. It had been too long. But slowly, inevitably, he understood. Fear. For the first time in his endless life, the Supreme Dominarch was afraid. And somewhere across the galaxy, a species he had never heard of smiled and continued building ships. The end was coming. One way or another, the end was coming. The sky above Krethax Prime burned with the light of 2,000 ships. Admiral Valketh stood on the bridge of the Celestial Harmony and watched the final battle begin. 3 years had passed since that first desperate landing on Earth. 3 years of fighting, of building, of bringing together species that had never known anything but fear and defeat. Now they had come to end it. The Coalition fleet filled the void around the Kreth homeworld. Ships from every conquered species flew together, their hulls painted with symbols that would have meant nothing 3 years ago, but now meant everything. Unity, freedom, hope. Below them, the Kreth had massed everything they had left. 800 warships, the last strength of an empire that had ruled for 8,000 years. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and they knew it. But they would fight anyway. The Kreth had never surrendered. They did not know how. All ships, this is Admiral Valketh. Her voice was steady, clear, the voice of someone who had stopped being afraid a long time ago. We have come a long way to reach this moment. Many of us did not believe we would ever see it. Some of us still do not believe it, even now. She paused, looking out at the fleet that surrounded her. Velen ships, human ships, Threll and Vorn and Kalesh and 100 other species, all of them waiting, all of them listening. 3 years ago, I brought 17 broken ships to an unremarkable world, orbiting an unremarkable star. I was running. I was dying. I had lost everything and everyone I loved. Her voice softened. And then I met humanity, and everything changed. Commander Webb stood beside her, quiet and calm as always. Maria and Teth were at their stations, holding hands when they thought no one was looking. Director Chen was on Earth, watching through relay feeds, probably smiling his kind smile. The Kreth taught us to fear, Valketh continued. They taught us that the universe was cruel, that only the strong survived, that compassion was weakness. And for 8,000 years, we believed them. We bowed. We surrendered. We forgot who we were. She straightened her shoulders. The humans taught us something different. They taught us that strength comes from standing together, that innovation comes from different minds working toward the same goal, that mercy is not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. She smiled. They also taught us to build really big guns. That helped too. Scattered laughter came through the communication channels. Human laughter, Velon laughter, the strange clicking sounds that were Threll laughter. Different voices, different species, all united in this moment. Today we end the Dominion, Valketh said. Today we build something new, something better, and we do it together. She closed the channel. Then she turned to Webb. Begin the attack. The battle was brutal. The Kreth fought with the desperation of cornered animals, knowing they were beaten, but refusing to accept it. They had never known anything but victory, and they did not know how to face defeat. But the Coalition had learned the humans' lessons well. Every species brought its strengths. The Vorn coordinated fleet movements with perfect efficiency. The Threll ships appeared from unexpected angles, their fluid-filled hulls capable of maneuvers that broke normal physics. The Kalesh targeted weak points invisible to normal sensors. And everywhere, human weapons tore through Kreth defenses like they were made of paper. One by one, the Kreth ships fell. The great fleet that had conquered a galaxy shattered under the weight of 1,000 different enemies, each fighting in their own unique way, all united by a common purpose. Valketh led from the front. The Celestial Harmony drove deep into the Kreth formation, its human-designed weapons carving paths of destruction through enemy lines. She had not planned to be a warrior. She had not wanted to be a killer. but she had learned that sometimes peace could only be won through war. The Kreth flagship was the last to fall. The Supreme Dominarch had led the defense personally, as tradition demanded. His vessel was ancient, the oldest warship in the galaxy, decorated with the symbols of 1,000 conquered worlds. It had never known defeat. It died screaming as Valketh's railguns tore through its ancient armor. She boarded the wreckage personally. Webb walked beside her, pistol drawn, eyes alert. Behind them came human marines and Velen soldiers, moving through the destruction with grim efficiency. They found the Supreme Dominarch in his throne room. He was dying. His ancient body, kept alive for centuries by technology and willpower, was finally failing. But his eyes were still sharp, still proud, still defiant. "How?" he whispered as Valketh approached. "How did you do this? We are the Kreth. We have ruled for 8,000 years. No one defeats the Kreth." Valketh knelt beside him, not out of respect, but so she could look into his eyes. "You conquered 1,000 species," she said softly. "You broke them. You made them afraid, and then you forgot about them." She gestured at Webb, at the Marines, at the fleet visible through the shattered viewport. "You forgot that broken things can be repaired, that fear can become courage, that enemies can become friends." She leaned closer. "The humans came from a world you never noticed, a species you never feared, and they did something you never imagined." She smiled sadly. "They helped. They shared. They made us stronger instead of weaker. And now here we are." The Supreme Dominarch's eyes flickered. "Understanding, finally. Too late." "You created your own destruction," Valketh whispered. "Every species you conquered, every world you burned, every cruelty you committed, they all remembered. And when the humans showed them a different way, they followed. All of them. Together." The Supreme Dominarch died with that knowledge in his eyes. 8,000 years of rule, ended by kindness and cooperation. It was not the death he had imagined for himself. It was not the death he deserved. But it was the death the galaxy needed. The war ended 3 days later. Kreth forces across the galaxy surrendered. Their leadership gone, their empire shattered. There would be years of work ahead. Rebuilding, healing, learning to live in peace instead of fear. But the hard part was over. 6 months after the battle, Admiral Valketh stood on a balcony on Earth. The planet had changed since she first arrived. Towers stretched toward the sky now, designed by Velen architects. Ships from 100 worlds filled the harbors, carrying goods and people and ideas between the stars. Earth had become the heart of a new galaxy. Director Chen stood beside her, older now, his hair completely white. But his eyes still held that same kindness, that same curiosity, that same quiet joy at seeing everything he had helped create. "I have a question," Valketh said, "one that has been bothering me since that first day in Geneva." Chen nodded. "I wondered when you would ask. Why did you help us?" Valketh turned to face him. "You owed us nothing. We were strangers from the sky. You could have let us die and hidden until the Kreth came for you. Why did you risk everything for us?" Chen was silent for a long moment. He looked out at the city below, at the ships rising toward the stars, at the new world his species had helped build. "Because you asked," he said finally. "Because you needed help. That was enough." "Just that simple?" Chen laughed softly. "Admiral, nothing about humanity is simple. We are complicated, contradictory, confused. We fight ourselves as often as we help each other. We make terrible mistakes and wonderful discoveries, sometimes at the same time." He turned to face her, and his eyes were serious now. "But at our best, at our very best, we look at someone in trouble and we help, not because we expect something in return, not because it is smart or profitable or safe. We help because helping is right, because that is who we want to be." He gestured at the sky, now filling with the lights of ships from 100 worlds. You were our ticket to the stars. That is true. But even if you had nothing to offer, I like to think we would have helped anyway. Because that is what humans do. That is the best of us, and it always will be. Valkath stood beside him, watching the lights rise into the darkness. She thought about everything that had happened. The defeat, the hope, the victory, the peace. Thank you, she said quietly, for everything. Chen smiled his kind smile. Thank you for asking for help. It is the hardest thing anyone can do, and you did it when you had nothing left. They stood together in silence as the stars came out, one by one. Somewhere above them, ships from every corner of the galaxy moved through the void, carrying dreams that had once seemed impossible. The war was over, the future had begun, and humanity, the species that had come from nowhere and changed everything, was finally among the stars.